Hello everyone, welcome back. Thank you so much for joining me. Happy Monday, it's a new week. How does that make you feel? I had a bit of a write-off of a week last week. I was meant to post a video yesterday and didn't because I made 2 videos in 2 days and they were just the worst. And I was like, why am I being so creatively blocked in my brain? So I checked the moon phases because at a full moon everything goes to shit for me, but it wasn't a full moon, so I can't blame the moon. So what I thought I'd do today, of course, it's Ghost Story Day. So I'm going to take it nice and slow. I'm going to use some products I haven't used before and some that I've really been waiting to try and some that I have used before. Just before we get onto our kind of theme for today, if you have any ghost stories, weird stories, anything, it doesn't have to be supernatural. It can just be about weird people. It can be about something weird that happened to you. Go ahead and send them to this email here, and I am making my way through them now in order that they were sent. So today's theme is kind of based around my home haircut that I gave myself. So for those of you who don't know, I cut my own hair and it went really wrong. I had a wedge of hair around here and then another wedge of hair, so I thought I'm just going to shave off the sides. So I shaved off all the sides and left the top and thinned out the top a little bit. And I said in my video, when was it, the other day, that it reminds me of in films or in TV series where someone goes into a coma and then the end of the world happens and then they wake up and then all the survivors of this apocalypse, there was an apocalypse, all the survivors are wearing trench coats for some reason, and they're wearing really shabby clothes. For some reason they all have spiky. That's what I'm going to do. I'm going to do a post-apocalyptic look. It's probably going to look nothing like that kind of theme. Anyway, so let's get into it. Let's go slow. I really need to take it slow because I think I've been trying to shove out content and it's kind of just gone, I need to take it calm. I've been listening to Disney piano music this morning to keep me in a calm, rested place. Let's get into our first story, The Man in Red Flannel. Ooh. When I was 6 or 7, my family and I lived in this old house on some farmland just a few miles away from town. I remember a lot of weird stuff happening in the house. All the pictures on the wall flying off the wall and shattering on the floor at once. But the memory that sticks out the most is that I was terrified of the bathroom. I refused to go in unless I had to, and I cried constantly when I did. When my parents asked me why, I told them that it was because of a man who was always there. Of course, they were confused, so they asked me to describe him so they could get a better understanding of it. I told them he was old and he wore pants with a red flannel top and that he smelt bad. I didn't know what exactly the smell was, I just knew that he smelled awful. Finally, they asked me what he was doing in the bathroom, and I told them that he was hanging from the bathroom ceiling. Later on, I found out that my parents looked into the history of the house and found out the previous owner's brother had hung himself in the bathroom and he had been found in red flannel. What was that smell? The smell of death, decaying body. Oh, imagine every time you needed to go to the toilet, there's just some dead man hanging there. That would be terrifying, especially as a child. Well, thank you so much for your story. That is horrible. So our next story is called Footsteps and TV Static. I can sneeze. Ooh, allergies. Okay. Hi, Robert from Arkansas, US. Hey. So I was about 15-ish when this happened. I had a sleepover with my best friend and one other girl we were both friends with. The other girl was different, would be the best way to describe her, but she's funny and we had a good time when we were together. All that day things were happening, but that night is where it got bad. There was a heavy storm outside which knocked the electricity out. We were laying in my room talking about things when a TV came on to static. However, we didn't even have a TV on when the electricity went out and none of the lights or fan came back on. I just got chills. I tried to get the TV off because it was making that awful static noise, but it wouldn't turn off. I finally unplugged it. Fast forward 3 days later, I started hearing noises in my house when I was downstairs, like walking and banging upstairs. One day, My best friend was over and we had been in a house by ourselves for a couple of hours when the walking and banging started, and it was the loudest I'd ever heard it. We didn't really know what to do, so we grabbed some weapons and went upstairs. The banging was still going on as we went up the stairs, but nobody was there. We checked my room, the spare room, bathroom, and even the attic, but nothing. Then one night, I woke up out of a deep sleep and could hear a man talking outside my bedroom door. I couldn't make out what he was saying, but it was definitely a man talking and not my dad because it wasn't his voice. I reached over to my nightstand and turned my TV on and turned the volume way up. After that night, I started to sleep with the TV on, so if I did hear something again, I could just say, "Oh, it's the TV." Thank you so much for your story. Why do they have to try and talk? Why does it have to be a conversation? Can't you just open your cupboards and walk around and leave it at that instead of talking outside your bedroom door? Thank you. Don't do that, please. Okay, so our next story is called The Basement and the Baby. So it says, absolutely love your content, don't ever stop being you. Thank you so much. When I was in middle school, starting 6th grade, my family and I moved into our first townhouse. Everything was perfectly normal the first couple of years there, no problems. After a while, I decided I wanted my own room and slept in the basement. There was always this weird feeling of someone watching me or being down there with me, so I would run up to my little sister's room scared and sleep with her. Things started happening first with my mother. She would be sleeping and the bed would start vibrating, like there was an earthquake. She would come down and ask us if we felt anything. Then I had come home from school one day to find my dad wiping down the walls after my mother had had an argument with him. I looked at him and asked him why he was cleaning the walls. And he pointed to the front door and told me to let the sun in so I could see the walls. He was wiping crosses off the walls placed there by my mother. The creepy part was all the crosses led straight down to my bedroom in the basement. One day, I was writing in my diary in my little sister's room when I saw the doorknob turning violently. The door to the room wasn't locked, so I was confused as to why it seemed like someone was trying to break into the room. I said, "It's open," and went to open the door, but no one was there. I looked down the stairs and in all the rooms to see if somebody was pranking me, but there wasn't a soul in the house. My father also would feel someone watching him while he slept, and then would see an indentation on the corner end of the bed, like someone sat down on a bed watching him. When we finally moved out, my mother had finally told me the origin of the haunting. 4 years before we moved in, a woman had lived in the house and she had a baby. One day, she went crazy and killed her baby and buried it in our backyard and ran off into the woods behind our home. I haven't felt its presence since leaving that apartment, but I wonder if it's still lurking around to this day. When things start painting crosses on your walls, I feel like that's the time to get out. Thank you for that story. What a horrible situation in general, but also one to live around, and to know, and no thank you. So our next story is called Happy Ghost Story. Maybe. So it says, I absolutely love your videos. This ghost story is very creepy, but honestly it wasn't at all unpleasant. Alright. One day, I was sat in my bedroom watching TV. I would always prop myself up with a pillow against the wall. My TV was directly opposite. All of a sudden, I saw this purple mist to my left in my peripheral vision that looked like it was moving towards me. I only saw it for a split second, but I couldn't really turn my head in time to see it clearly. All I know is that it had no shape. As it got closer, it felt like it sat inside my body with me, only for a couple of seconds. I was freaked out, of course, but I wasn't necessarily scared. I felt not anything physical, but very emotional. Before I knew it, it left my body to my right and disappeared. At that moment, I was overwhelmed and began crying. And I realised I was upset that it had left me. It was like I knew or had some connection to this purple mist. I was so happy that whatever it was passed through to say hi. I sat crying for a while and my mum asked me what was wrong. When I explained it to her, she was shocked and she told me it had happened to her as well. She thinks it was her father, my grandfather, who died when I was young and never got to meet him. She then cried too and genuinely believed he just wanted to see me for the first time. I hold on to this because the feelings I felt were so emotional. Even though it lasted a minute, if that, it was like experiencing someone you love leave you, but condensed into a small amount of time. That's so cute. Thank you so much for that story. I think stories like that give people some like a sense of hope and a sense of like people, like loved ones are still with them. I think that's nice. I've gone a little bit heavier on the contour because I want to look like you know, my new home is like an abandoned car lot. And I have a throne and it's made out of car seats. Our next story is called The Lady on the Porch. Hi Robert, I love your ghost stories series, so I thought I would share my experience with you. Thank you so much, I appreciate it. Growing up, I spent a lot of time at my grandparents' house. The house next door, but one from my grandparents, always stood out to me for some reason. Around age 6, whenever I walked past this particular house with my nan, I would see a lady who lived there standing in the porch. She had long white hair, which was tied back, wearing an old-fashioned pale blue dressing gown, and she was always asking passers-by for the time. Nobody ever acknowledged this lady, and it always confused me. This went on for a few years until I realised that I was the only person who could see this lady. I was never frightened of her, and as I got older, I would see her less and less, but was compelled to think of her whenever I was near the house. It wasn't until I was around age 17 that I told my nan and granddad and mum about this lady, and my nan was really freaked out. She told me that the lady that I described sounded just like the man who lived there called John's mother. Apparently, she used to wait in the porch and ask for the time so she knew when to put John's dinner on when he came home from work. However, this lady died before my mum was even born. To this day, I still think of her, but don't see her anymore. John, her son, passed away a few years ago, and I think that may be why I don't see her anymore. That's so cute that she was still waiting for him, still making him dinner, even in the afterlife. Mothers never get a rest, do they? Okay, oh, this isn't going to look right. Let's do it anyway. Okay. No. No. Okay, so I think we have time for one more story. I'm going to wax some lashes on. Just before we get into that, but while I have your attention, I get a lot of comments asking me to make these videos longer or do an extra video each week of these. Let me just tell you something. These videos, these ghost story videos, aren't as popular as my other videos. I don't do as well, but I really enjoy doing them, so that's why I keep doing them. But also as well, it takes a really long time to film. Because I'm doing my makeup and reading and recording, I could be recording for 2 hours and it's condensed into 20-30 minutes. So it's a really long process, and it isn't really something I have the time for, considering that they're not my most popular videos. If they were my most popular videos, then I'd probably do an extra one or spend more time doing it, but not as many people watch it, which is fine. I quite like that we have this like little group of people that watch these videos. But yeah, so what feels like I've been filming for ages and read loads of stories for me actually doesn't convert into that much, if that makes sense. So yeah. So this story is called The Protective Dog. If a dog dies, I'm gonna cry. It says, hi Robert, I have a story that makes my heart melt every time I think about it. When my daughter was a baby, we moved in with my husband's parents. They had a family dog who was a 17-year-old Corgi German Shepherd mix named Trixie. Within no time at all, the dog became very protective over my daughter. She was always within arm's reach of her, always watching the door and keeping her safe. They literally spent every waking moment together. The unfortunate, dreaded day came where the family had to make the hard decision to put Trixie to sleep, as she was very old and had a lot of health problems. The night she died, I heard my daughter via her baby monitor saying, "Dog, dog," which is what she called Trixie. Her dog came back to say goodbye to her and reassured me she is still watching over her. I can't deal with dog stories like this. Oh my god. Dog stories get me every single time. Humans mean so much to dogs that even in the afterlife, I'll come back and you know, look after them. It's just so cute. Okay, so this is our finished look. A little bit grey, a little bit industrial. It's not really. I quite like a shimmer. There we got a shimmer to. Okay, so that did nothing. Anyway, that's it. I'm king of the wastelands, and I sleep in cars, and I have minions. And I have a stick that's just an old branch with like a BMW thing on top. Okay, well, I hope you enjoyed those stories this week. All the products are listed below. Affiliate links will be clearly marked as well. Like I said, if you have any stories, any ghost stories, any weird experiences, anything you just want to share, you can always do it anonymously. I'm never going to, you know, say your name or anything like that. Just send them right here to this email address. Yeah, weird happenings, paranormal happenings. I hope you're okay though. Yeah, so thank you so much. I will see you on Wednesday, Friday, and Sunday. Also, I just want to remind you guys that me and my brother do have a podcast called the Double Cleanse Podcast, and you can go ahead and listen to that on Spotify, iTunes, like the free podcast app on iPhones, and most podcast like people. All right, guys, thank you so much for joining me, and I will see you very soon. Bye.